It is so much harder to do a podcast by yourself than talking to someone. Justin's on his way home. It's Tuesday, November 29th. And last week was Thanksgiving, and we were out of town all through the weekend in Atlanta with visiting Justin's family. And so we did not have time to do a podcast this weekend. We got back Monday sometime. It was a whole to-do with flights, and we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then the flight was 2 hours delayed, blah, blah, blah. Then we had a rehearsal on Monday night. So we simply have not had time to do a podcast this week. But what we do have is one we've saved for about 6 weeks. So on Monday, October 10th, we went to see the band Phoenix at the Mission Ballroom. And we were so amazed that we did an extra podcast episode that night, even though we'd already recorded the podcast episode for that week. So we've been saving this one for you guys. So this is not a rerun. It's an extra that we were saving for a week just like this. So here you go. Enjoy our reactions to the Phoenix concert at the Mission Ballroom 6 weeks ago. You just had a religious experience. So you said. We left the concert and there were tears.
It's going a little far. But
there were tears in your eyes.
If you use the simple, dumb metaphor of the Church of Rock and Roll, which I don't love that idea, but like I'm a believer.
You did walk away from that show saying, I believe again.
I believe again. Which of course I always do, because this is what I do for a living, and nothing kind of, in terms of just stuff in the world, there's nothing I care about more, but like, man, I'm on fire for the rock and roll. Like, that was like a revival tip.
Oh, like, my God, that show.
I'm on fire for the rock and roll. I believe again in...
Here comes the cat.
Yeah, she knows.
So, wait, who did we see?
We saw Phoenix at the Mission Ballroom. And Phoenix is a band that we've seen twice now. We saw them at the Pepsi Center with Dinosaur Jr.
Oh, yeah.
You remember how loud they were? Oh, my God.
I don't remember. I had earplugs in at both shows.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Dinosaur Jr., very loud. But yeah, we saw Phoenix, and the last time we'd seen them was in a Civic Center type thing. And, I've played lots of Civic Centers, and they're hard to do a great show in. But this show was at the Mission Ballroom, which was kind of like 2,000 people. And we were in general admission, which was the thought I had. If you ever hear us say GA, that's general admission. That's just like the floor. Find your own seat.
Or stand. You don't sit.
Yeah, we were standing.
I was thinking, actually, you had an idea for a new product. I was thinking I should have worn some of my Stevie Nicks go-go boots that are 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
Because I'm 5'3.5". And I have to pick my spot very carefully, so I'm not standing behind some tall guy. But if I wore 6-inch heels, it'd be a different story.
Right.
And you had an idea for a product. Maybe I don't know if you fleshed it out at all, but I was thinking you were saying, like...
Lifts
that you could attach to whatever shoes you're wearing? Is that... Yeah.
Or just platform shoes that women could wear to come.
Those exist.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the point of this show.
No, it's not. Although, gosh... being with you and seeing your trouble seeing the show makes me so self-conscious, because I'm constantly like, you're moving around trying to see it, and I'm constantly like looking behind me, like, am I blocking anybody's view? Because I don't. And it's weird to me watching a show because I don't really need to see. Like, half the time I'm turned around, I'm watching the audience.
Really?
Yeah. Oh.
Speaking of which. Okay, let's just dive into the show.
Okay.
Watching the audience. Okay.
Phoenix, yeah.
Phoenix, oh my gosh. They used technology in some very cool ways. I'll post photos on my Facebook, although this particular episode we might make evergreen, so there might be a little...
This might come out.
There might be a little
not
synchronization between
Yeah.
what I post on Facebook and whatever.
Yeah.
So late in the show, the lead singer picked up this device which looked like binoculars, and I was like, why is he going to be using binoculars? What a weird thing. And then when he picked up the binoculars and looked at the audience, what he was looking at appeared on the back screen, the LED display, like the live audience.
They had like cameras.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Cameras. The
mounted in the binoculars were
Yeah.
cameras.
And so you saw this like double cylindrical view of what he was looking at through the binoculars.
And he was singing the whole time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so...
Another thing they did with technology was, I don't remember which song it was, but there was a moment where they had like this old Dutch painting, you know, like those old Dutch paintings of like the ladies in the little like white... I'm not an art historian at all, so...
Phoenix being Phoenix, it was probably a French painting. But yeah, it was one of those like kind of like... Yeah.
But it looked like girl with pearl earring, you know, kind of like style of thing.
Yeah.
And they used what I can only imagine is like modern AI.
Yeah.
To make her like smile and bop her head to the music.
And she was just acting exactly like a modern music fan, but it was this painting.
Oh my God.
Which we have to get to. That's something we should get to right away. We're pretty sure they were LED screens.
Yeah.
And we noticed there was like a test image up when they were switching between the opener and Phoenix. And it was like there was an LED screen across the top and then down the sides, and then they had several moving back.
Right. So there was top and side in front, and there was at least sides behind that, another set of sides behind that.
And then there was the back
and
wall.
And then the back wall. Yeah.
Of LED screen, which basically is like, call it a TV, or the opposite of something being projected. So it can play images, right? So it's like you're watching...
It's projecting the light. It's not reflecting light.
Right, it's coming out at you, but it looks like you're watching a movie screen. And as a result, I have to say that was the most 3D show I've ever seen.
That's the thing I noticed. There was so much depth to that show because, I mean, the first thing they showed was columns. Like, they have a lot of classical images, like inside museums, inside cathedrals, inside, you know, big European parlors or whatever. And the first image they showed had columns, like Greek or Roman columns, on each of those levels. So it drew your eye in, and it made me, you know, I'm always thinking like, what can we do that would be like that? Of course, we're not going to have 3 layers of LED screens all mapped out, but the sense of depth that gave us, like maybe we can rearrange. I mean, we already have a bit of an arc across the back. We have Ari on keys and then Ryan on drums and Brian on the other keys and guitar. But maybe the front, like you already are a little bit back, you know, if we can arc, you know, across the front a little bit more, that might give us a little bit more sense of depth. Maybe there's something we can do in the long run with some projection. I mean, right now it's just a 1 layer of projection.
But paying attention to that.
The sense of depth.
And, well, for one thing, we were talking about, don't know when this is coming out, but we were talking about at the Pace Center just last night, our blocking with Petty Nicks. Was just on fire. We were just falling back, and I would like fall back where you're supposed to fall back as a guitar player, and I'd look over and Vic had we were just like in sync. It's crazy.
That's so cool. You
know, but we've never talked about any of that stuff, but on stage I think we do a bit of...
It's funny.
Yeah.
I was noticing how in sync we were with blocking last night too, even though most of it we haven't ever worked out. We've just kind of been examples, and we've mentioned it a couple times, and then there's like literally like 2 or 3 things we've blocked out, and the rest is all natural. Speaking of guitar player blocking, I was watching the lead guitarist of Phoenix, and he's like the same dude in different skin as you. He's got these pointy shoulders like you do, except that yours are wider than his. He's got these pointy shoulders.
Bigger, yeah.
And he wore, like, they all look very French. They've got these super skinny jeans and these super skinny legs. They're like...
people could see from space that these guys are French. Like, they are French, man.
I know. Their faces, they're slightly messy, slightly long hair.
Yeah.
And then their super skinny jeans, and their super skinny legs in their super skinny jeans.
Yeah.
And just, anyway, but the guitar player, like, he had all the same moves that you do, man.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. And he was doing such a great job of telegraphing the music the whole time. You know, like, there were places where he was like, and then when he had, like, big whole note strums where you're just kind of barang, and he was making them, he was just telling we were walking back to the car, and I was just like, yeah, you know, I mean, it's funny that there is a similarity, but it's also true that there are, like, 3 guitar players. Either you're Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, eating the scenery, or you're a supportive guitar player, or you're just
doing nothing. You're standing there playing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's sort of like the job is the same, so it's not surprising that it looks the same.
It was just so funny. Like, I'd see him go, "Do-do-do-do-do," and I'd be like, oh, you do that every time. Like, "Do-do-do," like, what? Just the move and the sounds together. I was like, that is totally you on stage, man.
And there was a point where they did this great thing where they, so he was on stage left most of the time, and we were standing stage left. And then at one point, he moved over and was on stage right, and he was singing on the stage right microphone for that part, which was a great switch him up for the whole look of the thing. But for me, looking at him across the smoke and fog, and instead of being 20 feet from him, he was 100 feet away. And yeah, I felt the same thing. I was like, wow, that looks like watching me on like a video someone posts on Facebook. It was like, that's like the exact same. And that weird body type that guitar players have.
I know. This is like this angly, like elbowy guitar
and I was telling you,
player type.
And we said the same thing when we went and saw Slater-Kenny, which is one of my favorite bands. I say that about every band, but I really do love Slater-Kenny. And Carrie Brown, from also she did Portlandia.
Yeah.
But she's a guitar player, but a woman, but also the angular and the moves and the like rollicking around the stage, kind of like rocking around the stage, and it was like so funny that like, yeah, guitar players are just guitar players.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the
thing, the whole what?
I was gonna get into. Okay, you were gonna go emotional. I'm gonna stay technical.
Okay.
They did an amazing job of managing the pressure on the audience. So, whether you're in the audience or whatever, but there is this thing where when everyone in the band moves up to the front, that is like this max pressure on the audience. It's like pushing on the audience.
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but in a like, you know.
Yeah.
And they just did this amazing job, and I think they were much like Petty Nicks. It wasn't planned or even talked about. They've just done enough shows where they've seen it. And they would just do this amazing job of pushing up at the front when there was a big, important musical thing, and then they'd wander off, and then when it got back to a big, catchy hook, everybody's singing along, the guitar players would just be right up at the front, and they would just manage the pressure, which it was weird how effective that was, given that their lighting show was this like 3D.
Oh my gosh.
It was like you said, it was like watching a music video. It was just like, it didn't look like reality, and yet the blocking and the pressure still worked. Like, I was blown away that was important, that the guitar players were moving up, even though all that other stuff was happening.
Right. A lot of the heavy lifting was being done by the production. The light show was absolutely
insane.
It wasn't just lights. It was lights and LED. I mean, I took a bunch of pictures. Like, every time they had a new, it was like scenery.
It was sort of like War on Drugs, where there were the places, sorry, not War on Drugs, Killers, where there were places where it looked like there was a massive hallway going back.
Yeah.
Like, they did such a great visual illusion.
You were in a different place, like every song.
Yeah. But still the blocking mattered.
Yeah.
And they did the best job I've seen in so long of everybody was, in a performance sense, working and managing their quadrant. Like the guitar player's slice of the stage, he was very in charge of riling up that audience.
Yeah.
And the bass player's slice of the stage, he was in charge of that. And the stage right guitar player was running his part of the stage. Mm-hmm. And like we said, it let the singer didn't have to work that hard. Like,
the singer didn't have the whole weight of the show on his shoulders at all. He could just be like free and cool.
Yeah, it was.
So they opened with Listomania.
Well, and here's the thing, and let's talk about that.
Yeah.
They opened with 3 of their biggest hits.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm going to curse here, we've talked about this. Like, the idea of opening this with this, like, fuck you, like, we got way more for you. We're going to give you 3 of the biggest songs of ours, but it's only going up from here. Like, it's such a, like...
That is
it's a power move.
It is a power move. Yeah, that's right.
And it's sort of like, I mean, maybe that's why I was so affected. It's sort of like beat you a little into submission. You're like, okay, now I'm going to pay attention. I will pay attention now for whatever you want to do. Like, you're just going to...
You think you're that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well then.
I'm going to give you, like... and then they still closed big.
Yeah. I don't know what the name of most of their
Phoenix
hits are.
songs are hard to... The names are hard to remember.
But they opened with their biggest hit, and they closed with probably their second biggest hit. Closing meaning the last of the 3 encores.
And gosh, they did that amazing thing, similar to what we've been doing with the American Girl thing. They came out and they had a piano shell and...
an acoustic ballad.
And they did an acoustic ballad thing in the encore. They just had the show so dialed. I was like...
Oh my God.
When they were doing the song... that was the encore break, it was like, to me, I was like, oh, this is the encore break. Mm-hmm. Like, it just...
You mean the song before the encore or the song after the encore?
The song before the encore.
Okay, yeah, you knew the encore was about to come.
Right, this is the break after this one.
Yeah.
Because it was just so perfectly energy-wise structured.
What was it about that song that telegraphed that it was the song before the encore?
For one thing, there hadn't been... And Phoenix is guitar-heavy music, but it's not big, distorted...
Yeah, it's pretty synthy, too.
Yeah, it's pretty synthy, too.
There's a lot of guitars, but yeah.
But it's not riffy, big, distorted rock guitars. And that song had a big, distorted rock guitar riff. So it was like this, like, oh, this is...
This is the one that's over the top.
This is the over-the-top one.
Yeah.
I was shocked because it was funny. Speaking about classical, they ended that... the encore break song ended with what is called a Picardy third. And what a Picardy third is when you have a song that's in a minor key, but then when you land on the last chord of the song, you land on a major.
Oh.
It's Edmund or Edwin or something. Picardy was an English composer, and he figured that out, and so now that's called a Picardy third.
Oh, okay.
Where it's a minor key song, and you end on a major, and they totally did that, which was like kind of a cool thing for the going into the encore, because it was like minor, sad, sad, tough, and then like blah, 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 sweet and pretty angels.
So that's the end, but the beginning of the show. So we talked about what song they opened with. Listomania. At the end of the song, I think there's some lyrics that go like, the show's about to start, or this time to start, something about the time to start the show. So before the song was over, they brought the curtain down. Do you remember that? Oh my gosh. So there was a curtain down before the show started. It raised and then they had this big, like, expansive view projected or displayed on the LEDs. They play the song. They get to the outro. The curtain comes down while the band is playing. The singer's in front of the curtain. And he's just all by himself singing the end of the song. The show's going to go, whatever the lyrics are, the show's going to, it's basically the message is the show's about to start. Right. And he sings that for 30 seconds, and then the curtain goes back up, and the song ends because now the show is starting. Talk about, like, breaking rules to express a song. Like, the song tells you what it needs to be how it needs to be expressed. That song had an ending that said the show is about to start, so that means the curtain's going to come up. So, well, the curtain was up, so it got to come down first before it goes up. And it was just whoa! It just made me go, okay, we need to pay attention to this show.
And it was so, to your point, related to the song because Listomania was there was a classical piano player, Liszt, and he was, along with kind of Mark Twain, one of the first celebrities. And Listomania was like Beatlemania. Like, so there's Beatlemania, but before there's Beatlemania, there was Listomania, where this piano player Liszt got this crazy following of teeny boppers or the late 1800s, early 1900s versions of teeny boppers. People were just like nuts about him, and so that's what the song was. So dropping the curtain and just having the singer there and this exposed thing was like just like such a like, yeah, it was just a really unbelievably well thought out show, but also unbelievably energetic. And they were it was just,
it didn't have much of a like an emotional flow. It was just all up. And
you know what? The guys gave me a serious, a huge experience. I feel recharged in loving shows and rock and roll, but I can't find criticism. Almost all of the songs ended with a like, surprise ending. They were just jamming out. You know, there was the last chorus, and there was the energetic thing towards the end of the song, and then they were all super close cuts. I think they could have gotten more response out of the crowd with some trash can endings. Trash can endings or some retard endings of some da 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 da. Because they would go da 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 da. And then the lights would go down. And it was, you know, and they could have gone da 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 da. You know, and like really telegraph that here's the ending coming. All of the endings were surprise endings, is my point.
I see.
And they did it over and over again. And if that's a musical philosophy they have, great. But like at the same time, like I was like, I think they could have telegraphed some of those endings so that you knew that's. Although they also did, and I wish I had made a note, they did a really great applause break moment where they just took a minute to be like,
yes.
They threw up the house lights and they were just like,
was that that was before the encore?
It was.
It was before the pre-encore song. So it was like maybe one song before the pre-encore.
Right.
Before the last song of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they let the audience love them. And the guitar player, the lead guitar player, who's kind of like you, on our side they were all just kind of like walking around and just appreciating people and like pointing at people and smiling and being like, and that felt so good because they did not talk much.
No.
At all during the show. It was song after song after song. Right. I mean, it was tight. And so there was, people were cheering, obviously, but there was no extended moment for people to really give it back until then.
And I was talking to a client just today about, like, audiences want that moment where here's where you give it back to us. We're giving to you and we're giving to you, and we end a song and you cheer, but, like, they really want a moment where there's a spot that, for us, it's Rhiannon is the first set, where it's like, here's the big moment you get to, like, you know. And they just did such a good job. They just took forever. The house lights came up, and they were just like, thank you, thank you. But, oh my God, the end of the show, the very, very end of the show, as we said, they did a acoustic keyboard and piano thing.
The lead singer did stand up on the piano. It wasn't...
Right, yeah, no, it was energetic, but they did one that was just the singer and the keyboard player. And then they came out and did, like we said, maybe their second biggest hit.
I know, I should know the name of it.
You can't remember Phoenix songs. But, and then the band just went into, like, this crazy electronic jam, and the singer came off the stage, jumped off the stage into the crowd, and there was a stagehand, like, managing...
Yeah, he still had the mic, and it was a wired mic.
It was wired.
So
it wasn't wireless.
Stagehand was staying on stage, like trying to keep tension on the mic cable so it would stay above the crowd.
Float above the crowd.
And the crowd was kind of helping it stay up.
And that was amazing. Dude, and part of what was so cool is that mic was corded. That moment would have been less cool if that was a wireless mic.
Interesting.
The cord both symbolized connection, which is what he was doing. And that's part of what made me start crying. Is he was like literally like walking around and being like, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And he walked all the way to the back.
All the way to the back. I mean, it's 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And he was like literally like walking back and like personally thanking people. And he must have had 250 feet of mic cable up there. And
so it was a long red mic cable.
I saw a couple of places where they were mic cables linked. The Canon connectors were, yeah. And the guys and the audience is helping, but that's part of it. Like what an experience that you're helping hold the cable up.
Right. And then he got most of the way around, and then people lifted him up, and he stood like people holding his feet, and he stood full up on top of the crowd.
Yeah.
And was just thanking people from up there, like he's being completely supported. And then he tilted over and he surfed the crowd all the way back to the stage.
Yeah.
It was just magical.
It was. And I can get emotional thinking about it right now. Like that's that thing. And I fucking hate audiences. I don't know why I feel this way. I do and I don't. That's a joke. But gosh, man, just like like blowing people away, and they blew everyone away. And then they took that moment to say thank you. And it's true as a performer, like as much as, we're not doing anything like Phoenix, but we get to kill some audiences sometimes, and they have a great time, but it's better for us. Like we're having such a great experience. I guess what I'm getting at is I think we could do a better job of saying thank you.
You're probably right.
And a better job. And I don't always do it, but I often am one of the people kind of hectoring you and Julian specifically to get out and talk to people after the show.
Yeah.
But I used to be very religious about that. That's one of the things that got no address to where it was, is I was like, I'd throw my guitar to the tech and jump right off the front of the stage and start shaking hands. And, that's and not out of trying to manipulate people or get any response, just fucking thank you.
Yeah, that real human connection of you're here. This wouldn't have been the same thing without you here.
Yeah.
We had a great time. You had a great time. Thank you for allowing this to happen and supporting it.
And that was one of the big moments in the later No Address days that Ben and I worked out, was this moment where he would go on this thing, this little, when you do stage talking, it's a different way of talking. But he would be the gist of it was you could be 1,000 other places doing 1,000 other things, but you're not. You're here with us.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. That might come out of my mouth sometime soon. We'll see.
Well, it's amazing to have that connection, and I mean that's why I think when we started out talking I'm a believer again, it's I'm a believer in that connection again. Just
So we need to cultivate that even more. I mean, I feel like we have it to a large degree with Petty Nicks, but maybe there's even more we can do. I was thinking, actually, as I went I walked to the gym today, and I was thinking, there's a little more we could do in creating a tribe. The way we talked about Florence creating a tribe.
Right.
With bringing in the people who are diehards and go to every show, all the way out to the people who are accompanying someone.
You could literally take that speech.
Yeah.
Well, and not word for word, but a version of it. And maybe at Boot Barn, where we have lots of repeat people, but it's 500 people, so it's obviously not all the same people.
Yeah. But we could build a little more tribe into like having people sing together would be another thing. Like they sang together. They sang with me on Dreams last night. I guess it is still last night. I don't know. At the time we record this, it feels like it's last night, but I think it is. Something where everyone's doing something together. We could do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, we could find more of that. And you've been doing a good job guiding that. We've talked about how there's different crowds and you do different things for different crowds. But the acoustic American Girl, you know, there could be a way that gets made into more of a sing-along.
Yeah. Yeah. It's edging that way naturally already.
Right. For the right audience, who knows? I'm really interested knowing Boot Barn, and that's a drinking crowd, and that's a dancing crowd. That's a wild crowd. I'm going to be really interested to see how that plays. That's
going to be a big sing-along, I think.
You think?
I think it is, especially if I encourage that.
Yeah. Which is, gosh, that's the fun of it. We were driving in the car, like, I just want to figure the audience out. Like, once I figured them out, like, I'm like anybody. I am also love the applause or whatever. I sometimes pretend like I don't, but like, I also am positively affected by all that. But at the same time, like I want to figure them out. Like,
your real motivating factor is like, what's the mystery of this?
Where are we going to get you?
Collection of humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the joy.
What's the key?
That's the joy is the key. And like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that would be where we got him, but that's where we got him. It's just such a weird,
It's like some higher level of emotional intelligence. Like you can relate well to individual human beings, but relating well to crowds is a whole different, I don't know if it's a different level or a different type of communication, but it's a different kind of skill.
Yeah. Well, it's a different feeling and not to get too far afield, we are talking kind of late at night for us. So
on a couple drink.
Yeah, and there's something oddly primal about it because that's something human beings have been doing since very early, like people coming together into groups. Mm-hmm. And there's something just really satisfying about that is... Yeah.
This is going to simmer in my brain overnight and over this week. I mean, Julian's the hype man in Petty Nicks. He's the one who's like, how y'all doing? And gets the big cheer. He's the hype man, and he's so good at it.
That kid's a fucking natural. I say it over and over again. I wish I had a tenth of what that kid has. Anyway, go on.
But I wonder if I can be a little more of the priestess. Like commanding people to come together, like bringing that tribalism, bring that primalism out in people a little bit more. Because there's a mysticism to my character, to Stevie Nicks. And that helps open deeper doors and dig deeper. And I wonder what's going to happen. I can't plan it. Because planning it, you have to go with the moment. I just have to have this idea of like, where's that deeper door?
That's a funny thing I was saying to the same client I was working with earlier. Like there's a thing you do in sets where you can plan that something is going to happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's going to feel like. I don't know what I'm going to do in the moment, but here's the part where I do X. Here's the part where I receive the applause and whatever we talked about the applause moment. Here's the part where I receive the thing, and I don't know if I'm going to bow. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that's where I'm going to leave space for that to happen, and then see what happens in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a plan, but it's not a plan. Mm-hmm. It's like the plan is I'm going to leave space for something spontaneous to happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shit is so fun.
I know, it's so fun. I love it.
Anyway, let's tie it off. We're at the magic mark.
Yeah.
We just wanted to do this podcast because we had such a great time at the Phoenix show, and we thought we had some enthusiasm and some ideas, and
yeah, we wanted to capture this before we forgot any of it.
Yeah, because we're on the. I tell you, man, that was. They did the thing. We talk about the thing. I don't know if we do on the podcast, but personally, we're like. We talk about the thing. The
thing being like the moment you're brought in, the moment you're converted? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean the thing where people really feel it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's where like that emotional distance collapses. And I've spoken about this before. Probably it's been quite a few episodes ago. It's been near the beginning, but sometimes you watch a performer and you're watching from a distance. So you're like, yeah, that's good. She sings well. She plays guitar well, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a well-written song. And then sometimes that distance collapses and you're in the performance. Suddenly you're with them. And it just, I've felt it. I've watched it happen to myself. Like, you
were talking about Florence. And she had the speech and didn't want to do the song, but you guys love the song, and I'm going to do it because you guys are great. And it was just that circle being completed, and I'll tear up. I can't help it. And that's the thing. It's where you just said it. It's where the
emotional distance collapses.
It collapses. And in my head, I don't type it on social media because I don't think it would translate. But like, we're going in. That's how I think of it. We're going to do the thing this weekend. This coming up Saturday, we're going to do the thing at the Boot Barn in Colorado Springs. That's what we're going to go do. We're not going to go play songs. We're going to go do the thing.
And who knows what the thing is how it's going to manifest each time. Right,
but we're going to give it a good shot. We're going to try to make it happen. Anyway, hope you don't have to edit this.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
All 10 of you.
All 10 of you.
Actually, I think there's more like 50 or 100 people watching this.
Yeah, it might be a little more. Doesn't matter.
We appreciate every single one of you, honestly.
Yeah, thanks so much, and go listen to Phoenix.